me, 24 years old, medical resident specializing in neurology, top of my class at Johns Hopkins. Full of caffeine and righteous indignation, I viewed the world through a very specific lens. Systems of power, privilege, the patriarchy embedded in the medical hierarchy. My mentor was Dr. Arthur Pendleton, chief of surgery, a giant in the field of neuroplasticity. He was quiet, stoic, hands that could stitch a grapeskin back together, but socially, he was a ghost. He lived in the hospital, slept on a leather cot in his office, ate vending machine crackers for lunch. I thought he was obsessed, maybe a little toxic. The kind of man who ignores his family for glory. His wife was Evelyn. She was the director of hospital philanthropy. Beautiful. Sharp. The kind of woman who commanded a room. She organized the galas. She brought in the donors. She was the face of the Pendleton Institute. I idolized her. She would come by the resident lounge with coffee. She would sign, sit down, check her watch. Arthur is in surgery again, she would ask. I would nod sympathetically. Yes, he's been in there for 10 hours. She would shake her head. I have a donor dinner at 6, he promised. I typed it into my mental log of grievances. Another man failing the woman who supports him. Evelyn would vent to me sometimes. I gave up my rotation in pediatrics for this. I manage his schedule, his life, his image. Without me, he is just a mechanic with a scalpel. I believed her. It fit the narrative I learned in undergrad. Emotional labor is the invisible tax on women. Arthur was the beneficiary. Evelyn was the victim. I would see Arthur in the hallway. Eyes red-rimmed, scrub stained with iodine. He would nod at me. Good work on the craniotomy, kid. That was it. No charm. No politics. Just the work. I thought he was arrogant. I did not see the tremor in his left hand. The way he rubbed his temples when no one looked. One night, the department held a massive fundraiser. Champagne towers. Ice sculptures. Evelyn was in a silver gown, radiating power. Arthur showed up late, wearing a suit that looked 2 sizes too big. Tie slightly crooked. He looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole. Evelyn grabbed his arm. Her smile was tight. Finally decided to join us, darling. The donors laughed. Arthur mumbled an apology. Emergency shunt had to be done. Evelyn rolled her eyes playfully. Always saving the world, never on time for dinner. The crowd ate it up. The suffering wife. The absent genius. I stood by the bar with the other residents. We mocked him. Look at him, I said. He doesn't even appreciate her. She built this department's funding from zero. He just cuts people open. My colleague Sarah nodded. Men think their career is the only thing that matters. She is the real brain behind the operation. Later that night, I saw them in the parking lot. I was leaving early to study. They were by Arthur's old sedan. Evelyn was yelling. Not the charming public scolding. This was visceral. You embarrassed me, Arthur. Arthur leaned against the car. Shoulders slumped. The patient was crashing, Ev. I couldn't leave. I don't care about the patient, she screamed. I care about the board of directors. I care about the grant money. Arthur rubbed his face. The money is for the patients, Ev? She laughed. A cold, sharp sound. The money is for the lifestyle, Arthur. Do you think I married a surgeon to drive a Honda? I hid behind a pillar. Froze. This did not fit the script. Evelyn saw him try to open the door. She slapped the keys out of his hand. They clattered on the asphalt. Arthur just looked at them. He didn't yell back. He didn't get angry. He just bent down slowly to pick them up, like an old man. Evelyn stormed off to her Mercedes. I told myself it was stress. Couples fight. Maybe he said something I missed. Maybe he deserved it. I went back to my books. Focus on the mission. Smash the patriarchy. Become a surgeon. A few months later, the rumors started. A new administrator joined the hospital. Greg, younger, MBA type. Flashy suits. Perfect teeth. He and Evelyn were working closely on the expansion project. Late nights in the administrative wing. Strategy meetings? I saw them at lunch. Laughing. Touching arms. The way Evelyn used to look at the donors. But more intimate. I brushed it off. Women are allowed to have friends. Men are so insecure about male friends. Arthur was still in the OR pulling double shifts. Covering for other surgeons. He looked thinner. His skin was gray. One day, he called me into his office. The room was a mess of files and medical journals. He handed me a tablet. Review this protocol, he said, voice raspy. It's for the new neural mapping study. I want you to lead the clinical trials. I was stunned. This was career-making stuff. Why me? I asked. He looked at me over his glasses. Because you care about the work, and you don't play politics. I felt a pang of guilt. If only he knew what I said about him. Thank you, Dr. Pendleton. He hesitated. Arthur, please. And keep this between us for now. Evelyn wants to announce it at the gala next month, but the data isn't ready for a press release. She pushes too hard sometimes. I nodded. I understand. 2 weeks later, the bombshell dropped. Not the study, the divorce. Evelyn filed. Irreconcilable differences. Emotional neglect. And here was the kicker. Professional misconduct. She claimed Arthur was unstable, that his obsession was endangering patients, that he was verbally abusive at home. The hospital gossip mill exploded. Everyone took Evelyn's side. Of course they did. She was the social butterfly. He was the gargoyle in the basement. I sat in the cafeteria listening to the nurses. I heard he threw a scalpel at a nurse once. I heard he screams at her all night. Good for her. She deserves better. I stayed silent. I'd never seen Arthur raise his voice. Not once. Even when a resident nicked an artery, he just took over. Calm, precise. Pressure here. Clamp. Breathe. But the narrative was set. The tribunal was held in the dean's office, a mix of HR, legal, and the board. Evelyn had a shark of a lawyer, a woman who specialized in executive divorces. Arthur had a union rep, a tired guy with coffee stains on his shirt. I was called as a witness regarding his behavior. I sat in the hallway waiting. Evelyn walked past me. She didn't look like a victim. She looked like a general inspecting troops. She winked at me. Just tell the truth, sweetie. About how tired he always is? How he ignores protocol? I went inside. The room was cold. Arthur sat at the end of the table. He looked small, hands folded on his lap, not looking at anyone. The lawyer asked me about his hours. Does Dr. Pendleton sleep at the hospital? Yes, I said. Does he miss mandatory administrative meetings? Yes, I said. Does he seem detached from reality? I hesitated. I looked at Arthur. He finally looked up. His eyes were not angry. They were just sad. Infinite resignation. He is focused, I said. He saves lives that no one else can save. The lawyer smiled condescendingly. But at what cost to the team? At what cost to his mental health? We have reports of erratic behavior. They pulled up emails, Arthur to Evelyn. I can't come home. I have to finish this. Stop spending the grant money on catering. You are bleeding the department dry. The lawyer read them with a sneer. Controlling, paranoid, financial abuse. I frowned. Financial abuse? Arthur wore shoes from Walmart. Evelyn wore Prada. But the board nodded. They saw a man withholding resources from his wife. They didn't see a scientist trying to save a budget. Then came the accusation of the affair. Not Evelyn's affair, Arthur's. They claimed he was sleeping with a research assistant. A lie so bold it took my breath away. The proof was late-night logins at the lab. Times when the assistant was also clocked in, because they were working on the study. Arthur tried to speak. This is absurd. We were culturing cells. I have the logs. I have the data. Evelyn's lawyer cut him off. Dr. Pendleton, this is not a trial of science. This is a question of character. And your character is wanting. Arthur went silent. He realized it didn't matter. The truth was irrelevant. The story was already written. The verdict came down fast. Arthur was placed on administrative leave, pending a psychological evaluation. Evelyn was granted temporary control of the institute to maintain continuity for the donors. She also got the house, the assets, and 60% of his future royalties, because she supported his career for 20 years. I walked out of the meeting feeling sick. I found Arthur packing his office. He was putting books into a cardboard box, slowly, methodically, like he was closing a patient. I'm sorry, I said. It felt inadequate. He paused, hand resting on a spine model. Don't be, he said softly. You answered honestly. The system is designed to protect the institution. Evelyn is the institution now. I watched him load his car, just a box of books in his coat. He drove away in his dented sedan. No fanfare, no retirement party, just gone. Evelyn moved Greg into the director's office the next week. They redecorated, white leather chairs, abstract art. The smell of old books and formaldehyde was gone, replaced by expensive perfume and espresso. The expansion project launched. It was a wellness center. Botox, elective surgeries, high-margin procedures. The neural mapping study was canceled. Not commercially viable, Greg said in a meeting. We need to focus on revenue streams. I tried to argue. Dr. Pendleton's work could cure paralysis. Greg smiled. A shark smile. Arthur was a dreamer. We are realists. Evelyn sat next to him, hand on his knee, nodding in agreement. Arthur never understood the business side, she said. He was too emotional. I felt the irony like a knife in my gut. The man accused of having no emotions was now fired for being too emotional. Months passed. I finished my residency. I stayed on, mostly out of spite. I wanted to see where this train wreck went. I went to a medical conference in Chicago, sitting in the back of a lecture hall, scrolling through my phone. I saw a familiar name on the program. A poster presentation in the basement? Pendleton, adjunct professor, Community College of Northern Illinois. My heart stopped. I went down to the basement. It was the reject room. Bad lighting. Sparse crowds. There he was, standing next to a poster board, wearing a tweed jacket with elbow patches. He looked 10 years older, hair completely white, but his eyes were bright. He was talking to a student, explaining a neural pathway, using his hands to simulate the synapses. Passionate, alive. I walked up. Dr. Pendleton. He stopped, blinked. A slow smile spread across his face. Doctor, he said, emphasizing the title. I see you made it. I knew you would. We went for coffee. Cheap diner coffee. He didn't seem bitter. He seemed free. How is the institute? He asked. It's a spa, I said. They shut down the research lab. Evelyn and Greg are building a new wing for plastic surgery. He nodded, stirring his black coffee. I expected that. She always wanted to be famous. Research is slow, boring, quiet. She hates quiet. I leaned in. Arthur, you should sue them. You should fight for your patent. They stole your life. He looked out the window, watching the rain. They took the building, he said. They took the money. They took the title. But they couldn't take the work. He tapped his head. It's all in here. I'm writing a textbook now. For students who actually care. I don't have to go to galas. I don't have to beg for grants. I just teach. It's enough. Is it? I wanted to scream. You were a god in the OR. Now you are grading papers in a basement. But I looked at his hands. They weren't shaking anymore. The tremor was gone. The weight was gone. He paid for the coffee with cash from a Velcro wallet. Be careful, kid, he said, standing up. Medicine is a business. Marriage is a contract. And the person who controls the narrative wins. Don't let them write your story. He walked out into the rain, opening the cheap umbrella. I watched him go. A genius discarded by the system he built. I went back to the hotel, turned on the TV. The local news was on, a segment on power couples in medicine. There was Evelyn and Greg, smiling, teeth gleaming. The caption read, Innovators of the Year. Evelyn was speaking. It was hard, she said, wiping a fake tear, leaving a toxic marriage. But I had to do it for the hospital. I had to do it for the patients. I saved the institute from ruin. The interviewer nodded solemnly. You are so brave, Evelyn. A true feminist icon. I turned off the TV, sat in the dark. I remembered the lectures from uni about power dynamics, about victimhood. I realized I had learned it all wrong. The predator doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes she looks like a hero, and the victim doesn't always scream. Sometimes he just packs a box of books and fades away. I quit the institute a month later. I couldn't walk the hallways anymore. Every time I saw Evelyn's portrait in the lobby, I saw Arthur picking up his keys in the parking lot. I saw the silence of a man who knew no one was listening. I moved to a rural clinic, general practice, stitches and flu shots, far away from the galas, far away from the politics. Sometimes I'd Google Arthur's name. He published his textbook. It has 5 stars on Amazon. Clear, concise, brilliant, the reviews say. One review caught my eye. Dr. Pendleton is the only professor who actually listens. He stays late to help us understand. He treats us like we matter. I smiled. He was still doing it, still carrying the load, quietly, without credit. While Evelyn drank champagne on a yacht with Greg, the world calls her a success. The world calls him a failure. But I know the truth now. Success is just a story you sell. Integrity is the thing you keep when you lose everything else. I keep his book on my desk, right next to my stethoscope. A reminder to listen, to work, and to never, ever trust the person who shines the brightest. Because stars burn, but the dark is where the work gets done. Be me! Finally awake, and the silence is deafening.